What do you mean the whole screen?
Because I wasn't seeing any of that.
Oh,
so I was like, oh, it's so cut off. Hi, everyone.
Oh.
So it's Rachel and Jenny.
Hello.
Hello. And Talaria might be joining us, might not be joining us. She had some things come up last minute. All is well. But, we'll see what happens. So we're here, and this is episode 2 of #Real Talk with Rachel Dawn. And what we're going to be talking about tonight is a topic that's very near and dear to my heart because it's something that I super suck at still and I deal with over and over and over again. So first, before we get started, I want to know who's watching because we can't see who's watching. So if you guys we'll give people a few minutes to kind of come on and join us. So if you would though, in the comments, say, hey, let us know you're here, put your name, whatever. So we know who's watching. So that would be great.
There we go.
So people are commenting yet? Oh no, there we are. We're live. Okay. So can we talk about something? Life is a lot. There's a lot going on. I feel like my life keeps getting busier and busier and busier, even though I have the same amount of things on my plate. I continue to feel like it's too much.
Yeah.
And so we've all got a lot going on in our lives, and we've all got busy schedules. And I'm super excited to have Jenny here with me because I know that there are going to be people watching this that I can't relate to, that are going to be going,
say, hey, let us
know. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. That there are people who are going to be like, hey, you don't even have kids. How can you even, why do you think you're too busy? And, things like that. So I know being a mom is also a lot. There's a lot going on there, and especially being a single mom, which Jenny is. So I'm excited to have her perspective in this conversation tonight, just so she can relate to you guys at a level that I can't. So obviously when things start to mount and pressure starts to build and we get overwhelmed, sometimes you just want to throw in the towel and be done and give up. And sometimes you just want to hide in the basement and Netflix for days and eat Hagandaaz. And that's okay. That's okay. Because sometimes that's just what you need to do. And so, actually, 2 years ago, I let myself get so stressed out for so long, I literally broke my gallbladder. That's #real talk right there. Don't worry, it's all better, totally healed. Praise Jesus. And so, but with that, there were a few things that I learned, and I've blogged about that. If you guys follow my blog, you can go back and look at stuff. 2015 was a really awesome year for me. But yeah, so I learned how to manage the amount of stress that's in my life. And like I said, I still super suck at this. Literally, twice a year, I still have a full-on meltdown, I can't handle it, and I'm so overwhelmed and whatever. And then I have to remind myself of the things that I already learned. So that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. So before we get started, what I want to know is what stresses you guys out. So, what do you feel overwhelmed by? I asked some people on Facebook ahead of time. I got answers feeling like you can't say no, and cooking for your family, cleaning your house, things like that. And just being a mom, being a wife, keeping up with all the pressures and the demands and all of that comes along with that. So I get that that's overwhelming. If there's anything specific that we don't cover while we're talking, then we'll try to address those things at the end. So comment in the comments, tell me what makes you feel overwhelmed.
Yes, so, I'm trying to figure this out, how to see the comments and the likes and who's watching, but it just keeps popping up.
Technology makes you feel overwhelmed?
Yeah. That's what's happening right now.
I don't know how we did it last time. I don't remember.
What makes me feel overwhelmed?
Yeah.
Finding a house. That makes you feel overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm. Shopping super sucks.
And yeah, just fitting in normal life.
Mm-hmm.
You want to lose weight, so you got to be going to the gym and fit it in with your work life. So you get up, and I started jogging before I went to work this morning. Yogging. I jog before I go to work. Then as soon as I get off work, I jog and go work out. And then I have to fit in, all right, how much time do I have for the gym before I have to pick up Clayton?
Right.
And just juggling
everything.
Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And there's so much on everybody's plates. And so that can become very, very overwhelming, and we get it. And so the first point in dealing with overwhelm and stress and burnout, here's the secret that I'm going to tell you. Here's some real talk. You don't have to do everything in one day. Can we talk about that? Because that's something that I struggle with. Like, literally, I can't turn my brain and my like energy off and make myself go to bed if there's still things on my to-do list, because I feel like I have to get everything done today before I can go to bed. Right? Do you have that? Or
I do.
just me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I do it.
So, you know what? Like, basic task management. Okay, like you have like put in order what's most important to get done. In order from most important to least important, what's most urgent, what's least urgent. Some things need to be delegated. Some things might not get done at all. And where I learned this was, I don't have a copy of it here. I don't know where it went. So I have a copy of it somewhere, and I highlighted all the parts in it that I wanted to tell you guys about. It's called Eat That Frog by Brian Tracy. And I read that book for the first time years and years and years ago, and what I learned from that is two big things. So one principle that Brian Tracy talks about is the 80-20 rule. So he talks about, you've heard of this, the Pareto principle. It applies to everything in life, literally people, whatever, everything is the 80-20 rule. And so what he's talking about with time management is that 80% of the tasks that you have to do aren't really the most relevant. It's only 20% of the tasks that you have to do in a day provide 80% of the productivity that you need to get done in your life. And so make a list of everything you need to get done and then start ranking, okay, what's really the bottom 80% that doesn't really matter, that's just going to eat up time? And then what's the top 20% that's really the most productive, most urgent things that you need to do? The other thing that he talked about is the ABCDE rating system. And because I don't have the book, I can't read it to you guys. But basically what he talks about is once you have all your tasks done in front of you, and I'm a big list maker. Can we talk about how awesome lists are? Obviously, that's my personality. Once you can see all of, because understand, like when everything's just in your head, it is overwhelming. And so when you can get everything out and get it on paper,
and be able to do a checklist.
Right. And see, like, okay, well, what do I really need to get done? Once you put it all on paper, then you can start rating. A tasks are the absolute most important things that need to get it done, like things that have big consequences. So if I don't get this done today, I'll get fired. Or, you know what I mean? Like things like that. So those are A tasks. B tasks are things that are secondary that you need to get done today, but there wouldn't be as drastic a consequences if you didn't. C tasks are kind of middle of the road. It would be nice to get it done today. It would be okay if you put it off till tomorrow. D tasks are tasks that you can delegate. And then E tasks are tasks that you just need to eliminate altogether. Like once you have them on your piece of paper, you realize, oh, I actually don't really need to do that. And so like there are things on my to-do list, like I love photography. I love everything about photography. It's a passion of mine. I enjoy taking pictures, but then like editing pictures and doing things with the pictures after you do it, like that's a lot of time. And so, like for example, I'm working on a scrapbook on Shutterfly for my mom for the vacation that we took to Hawaii in 2015. And so that is something that's so far down on the bottom of my list. Obviously, I want to get it done for my mom, but there are so many other things that like I have to get done today and I need to get done this week or this month or whatever. And so that goes to the bottom of the list. So I work on it when I have extra time, when I have free time, when something in my schedule cancels and all of a sudden I have this extra time that's like surprise bonus time. Those are my favorite. And so it's things like that. So do you find yourself doing that? Even without having read the book, like, is that something that you think that you do or no?
Yes, but I like to assign times.
Yeah.
So first thing in the morning, I love to get up and go grocery shopping.
Okay.
Yeah, I love to get that out of the way right away.
Well, and that's very key. That's something that's really huge in Eat That Frog. That's the whole point of the book, is the thing that you're dreading the most, but you absolutely have to get done. Like, get up and do that first, so that it's out of the way.
Well, I also read a book that had, so we release endorphins by completing small tasks.
Yes!
So if you I don't want to work out.
Right.
They said like silly things like get up and make your bed, or get up and put the laundry, like something like that. And your body starts, the chemicals, they reward you, so it can get you up to that point to go work out.
Absolutely. And Brian Tracy talks about that in Eat That Frog too. He talks about the different psychological and even physical, metaphysical, whatever type of effects of getting things done and completing the things that you're dreading the most or that seem the biggest and seem the most overwhelming. By doing those first and getting those off the list, you're given more energy. Then you have more energy, more enthusiasm, more drive to tackle those other things. And so it's really, really practical stuff. And it's a super little book, you guys. It's super easy to read, and it's all practical. So definitely pick up a copy of that book if you've never read it. Again, it's called Eat That Frog, 21 Ways to Stop Procrastinating and Get Things Done by Brian Tracy. So another book that I read that really helped me with this kind of stuff, and Jenny already touched on it a little bit. She didn't even know. You can't read it because it's backwards. So I'll tell you what the title of this book is. It's How I Raised Myself from Failure to Success in Selling by Frank Betcher. And let me tell you, you do not need to be in sales to get things out of this book. I read this book before I was in sales, like way, way, way before I was in sales. So there's a lot of stuff in here about just dealing with people in general. There's information in here, like the first, 11, 12 pages, whatever, are about basically what revolutionized the author's life was enthusiasm. So implementing that into his life changed like all aspects of his life. But anyway, one of the things that he specifically talks about in here is like you're talking about is calendar planning and scheduling things really specifically. And he tells the story of this guy that he kind of learned from and then applied that principle in his life, who literally sits down on Sunday and schedules out his whole week, like minute by minute, but he'll even block out time for like, I'm going to play in this block of time, or I'm going to be with family or do fun things, or I'm just going to read and relax during this time. But he blocks all of it out. He literally schedules everything. And then the key is he ferociously protects that schedule and doesn't let it get derailed. Because you guys, let's talk about something. Who has started a day with a plan? Or first of all, let's talk about how when you start a day without a plan, without a schedule, who knows? Before you know it, it's 8 o'clock and you haven't gotten anything accomplished, right? So then what's almost more frustrating is when you start out a day with a plan, you've got a list, and then all these emergencies, all the fires, all the crap that comes up in life, right, just pops up, and again, it's 8 o'clock and you haven't gotten anything on your list achieved. You haven't got anything in your schedule done that day because you let the day get away from you. You let other things come up. You didn't protect your schedule. And so he talks, the story that he tells in that and just the real life application is really awesome. And so, super awesome read as well. Definitely check that out. So I have a question for you guys. Like, do you even keep a calendar or a planner? Like, that's key. That's a big step. You know, like I'm old school. I keep a paper planner, like super old school. It's color coded. It's so beautiful, you guys. I can't even stand it. So, like literally, this is my life. But that's really key. Like if you...
That's my calendar.
Yeah, see? Well,
like
yeah.
a billion different colors.
Also color-coded because color coding is awesome. But that's the thing, like, people don't realize that if you, the more chaotic that your life is, actually causes more stress. So there are people, I know there are people on here right now that are like, oh, I couldn't make a schedule, I couldn't keep a calendar, that would stress me out. I just need to be able to be free and do what I want and go with the flow. I can't handle that. Well, you're actually causing more stress in your life by not keeping a structure, by not keeping a routine. And so we talked about, this is something that you and I have talked about because I gave you a planner for Christmas this year.
Yes, I have it over there.
You're very excited about it. But no, so when did you start keeping a calendar or a planner?
So when I went through my separation and divorce, because now the job of two people became the job of one person, right, along with having a child and a job and going to nursing school. And yeah. Right. So, and you said something about it, is your job in danger? Like, which is that your A? Right. That was the trigger point when so I was trying to do mom, this, that, but I let my nursing license lapse.
Ooh. That's a key thing when you're a nurse for a living.
So I had my LPN, which I was working as LPN, but I needed to renew my nursing license, and I let it lapse because I let everything else happen.
Yeah.
I just kept putting it off, right, putting it off, right, putting it off, and it was so important, obviously. And that was, I said, never again will I let this happen. So I created it's an orange binder. I put a slip in the front to label it, and it says, Jenny's life as an adult. I had my child's schedule for his school. I had shared parenting, holidays, like everything was in that. And that's what I went to, and I converted it over to my phone.
Yeah.
But, oh my gosh, not worrying about, oh my goodness, was it my time today? Was it my holiday? So much stress. I cried so many times for forgetting to do stuff that was so important. Yeah. Drove me crazy.
Yeah, for sure. And so, like we talked about, like not being organized, not keeping a schedule, not keeping a budget, that's a whole other conversation. All those things, like not being diligent about those things in your life, actually create more stress. And that's what people don't realize. I mean, there is so much, like something, and this is, I think he talks about it in Eat That Frog, that like even something as simple as like if your house is messy, if your bedroom is messy, if your office is messy, your desk is always chaos and there's always papers piled up, like just the physical appearance of that your mind sees like actually creates stress. And so the more that you're like, I understand not everybody's personality is, because we all have different personalities, and I get it. My personality is more prone to being very organized and regimented in those things. Half of my personality, actually the other half of my personality is like, woo, let's just do whatever and make it up as we go. And it's tons of fun. But I realize that part of my personality really pisses off the other part of my personality. And so they've learned to work together. And so I get it. Not everybody has the personality type that you're prone or that you're automatically programmed to be more diligent and organized and things like that. But if you're feeling stressed out and overwhelmed, that's going to be step one for you. I promise. Even just real simple, practical things like that. So check out some of those books. Definitely do that. So I know, like, just to kind of tell a personal story, the point that we're talking about is you don't have to do everything in a day. So with my book launch, I remember, like, I set the date, right? This is back in the fall. And I was like, okay, like, I've got to get this out. I had to get it out before the holidays started, or I was going to have to wait until the whole next year. And so I set a date. It was early November. And then I went, crap, that's only 7 weeks from now. And what the heck am I going to do? And so it was so overwhelming, like so overwhelming. I was like, there's no way that I can get all this stuff done in the next 7 weeks. And so literally I just got out my notebook and I started making a list of everything that I needed to get done in the next 7 weeks. And you know what I did? Like, I literally just woke up every day and started crossing things off the list. And when I made the list, it all looked too overwhelming. It was too much. I'm not going to be able to get all this done in 7 weeks. But when I said, okay, you know what? Today I just need to get this one thing done. And then tomorrow I'll do this thing. And then the next. And then there were things that I was like, okay, I physically do not have time to handle these things. I just can't take it on. This is something that I'm going to have to delegate. And so one of the things, understand the launch party was a very small part of actually launching a book. And so, like, I had all these other things that I needed to get accomplished for the actual launch of the book before we could even have a party to celebrate. And so the party was something that I had to delegate. And actually, ironically, Jenny, sitting here, became my party planner. And I said, look, because what happened was I immediately started shopping for a party planner. And I talked to a few different friends and people that I knew, and I started to get quotes together, and that became a little overwhelming because I didn't necessarily have a budget for that. And Jenny said, hey, you know what, like, my schedule's flexible during the week. I have a day off in the middle of the week. Like, I can run errands for you. Like, I can go to the craft store. I can go to, whatever, like the party store. I can do those things and gather things for you and make signs and do things. And so that was a huge help, just taking that one piece off and delegating that. Then the rest of the list became much more manageable and didn't feel so overwhelming. So here's my final tip for this point. When you're making your list, when you're rating things, when you're ranking things, when you're doing all this stuff, pray over what's important. Because you can think in your own head that you know what's the most important, or maybe sometimes you're looking at the list going, I have no idea what's the most important. In either of those instances, pray over what's most important, because God will show you, hey, that's something that you can let go. And that really leads into our next point. And the next thing that we're going to talk about is learning to say no.
Before you move on.
Yeah.
Barry is asking, what was the stat about average time wasted looking for lost items or money spent buying things again that you can't find? Oh, Lord. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, I'd like to know that because there's things I still can't find.
Right.
I have so much jewelry that I put in that place. That
right.
one place.
Yeah, that I'll know exactly where it is.
That is the perfect place. When I put it here, I'll find it always. No. There's 2 rings in that spot right now.
That's so funny. So I have no idea what that stat is. But I'm sure it's an awesome one, and I'm sure it's in one of those books, actually. If I had Eat That Frog, I could probably flip to it, but I actually think that my husband took Eat That Frog, so I'm looking at you. Where is it? Anyway, so the next point that we're going to talk about is learning to say no, and this is really key because sometimes we end up way overwhelmed and way stressed out and way burnt out, and we've gotten ourselves in that position. Like, obviously, there are things that we can't control. There are things that we're all adults, right? So we have responsibilities in life that we have to get done. There are things that we have to do. But then there are things that we get ourselves into. I think Tay's here, which is perfect timing because I want her to cover this point. So there are things that we commit to over and above what absolutely needs to get done. And then we put ourselves in that position that we're overwhelmed and we're stressed out. And that's nobody's fault but
I have that issue.
Yeah?
Yeah, because I'm a people pleaser.
People pleaser?
Oh, yeah.
We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that. So this is something that Talaria, has actually struggled with quite a bit lately. We've talked about. So there's somebody sneaking up to my back door, and it's not Talaria. Does that mean Talaria's not here? Talaria is not here. Why are you ducking? You're on the opposite side of the camera. That's my husband. So
you guys couldn't see him because he was ducking on the other side. But one of the things that Talaria and I have had conversations about is, so about a year, maybe 2 years ago, she actually started working at our church. And so, she has her work things that she has to get done. They're a part of her job. But then there are all these other things that are good things. They're, great things that she can be doing for God and for community and for people and whatever. But there's a difference between good things versus right things. There's a difference between good things that you can be doing and the things that God has actually called and ordained you to do. And you don't want to get those two things confused, because the minute that you do is when you're going to end up overwhelmed and stressed out and burnout. Don't take on more than you can realistically handle. And pray about it. Pray about what God actually wants you to take on. He'll show you. He'll show you, you know what? Yeah, that's good, but that's not for you. That's for somebody else. Because, there's a whole thing that we could go into about how everything that needs to get accomplished, God has created and ordained somebody for that task, has anointed them specifically for that task and for that thing. And it doesn't have to be you. Here's one of the things that I learned about this. A real life application in my life, right? So I volunteer in the high school ministry at my church, and that's something I'm really passionate about. It's definitely something that I feel like God has called me to. With the rest of my schedule, I don't get to do it even as often as I would like, but I do it when I can. There's also a middle school ministry at my church. Middle schoolers make me crazy on the inside. And so that's not a ministry that I feel called to at all. And it's totally okay. But what happens a lot of times, and I had a conversation with another woman at church about this, because she and I were having this conversation, and she was saying how somebody was trying to get her to volunteer in another part of the ministry, but she was really happy doing what she was doing, and she was starting to feel like, I don't know if I should be doing that. And I said, here's the thing, if God hasn't called you to do that, stop worrying about it. And don't you dare let anybody else put stress and pressure and guilt and condemnation on you, because that's not something that you're called to. It is okay. I said, I gave her permission. It is okay for you not to do that. It's okay for you not to have a passion for that, because that might be something that God hasn't called you to. It probably isn't, if it's not something that you want to do. And so that's totally okay. And you have to get comfortable with saying no to things that aren't God's things for you.
a great resource for this, I actually just started reading it. It's been on my shelf for years, and I've heard tons of people talk about it, is the book called Boundaries by Henry Cloud and John Townsend. And so it talks about, boundaries in families and relationships and in the workplace. And so definitely check that out. If that's something that you struggle with, is saying no, whether you feel guilty about it, whether you feel whatever your reason is, but if you struggle with saying no, you definitely need to read this book. Cool? If that's something that you struggle with, you said, because you're a people pleaser. And that's that's what a lot of that talks about.
Yeah. And I would, because people needed me, or they really didn't need me. I felt like just because they asked, they needed me.
Right. And that's what Talaria said she felt too.
There's also over-askers. There's overdoers and there's over-askers.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's that, sometimes it's that sense of, oh, they need me, or I feel important because they've asked me to do this. And there are all sorts of things behind why you would say yes when you really shouldn't be saying yes. So learn to say no. I give you permission. One other thing that goes kind of along with this point is the pressure of the things that you're supposed to do. So what I understand is that there are all sorts of pressures about what a good Christian is supposed to do, what a good wife is supposed to do and supposed to be like, what a good Christian wife is supposed to do and supposed to be like. And so there's this constant feeling of, if you're not keeping up with those things, you feel like you're not good enough and you're not enough. And that is very stressful, and that is overwhelming, because then we keep saying yes to things and we keep doing more and more and more things. In order to make ourselves feel like, okay, I'm doing these things that I'm supposed to be doing. And I say, screw that crap. Okay? Like God has very specific things that he wants you to do. And don't let any outside influences, whether it's people approval, whether it's because you're task or achievement oriented, that's me. That's why I drive to do more things than I need to be doing. Comparison, keeping up with the Joneses. Maybe it's that guilt and shame for saying no or setting boundaries, what we talked about. There's always a why behind our what. Everybody's motivation is going to be different. But what you need to understand is it's okay for you to get with your family, with your husband, and say, hey, what do you guys need from me? Like, forget what everybody else outside of your home is telling you what you should be doing, and ask your husband, ask your kids, ask your whoever's in your life, what do you need from me? And then ask God, what do you need from me? What am I supposed to be doing? And let go of everything else. Let go of all those other voices and all those other pressures. It's totally okay to do that. Again, like we talked about last time, we talked about the battlefield of the mind. We talked about how you have an enemy. Do you understand that part of your enemy's strategy is to constantly make you feel inadequate? To constantly make you be striving and achieving and trying to take on more things and do more things and be better and make you feel like you need to be doing. Because if he can bog you down with all of that, you're going to feel exhausted. You're going to feel stressed out. You're going to feel all those things. The second thing is, you're not going to have time to be quiet and hear from God and be with God. And so, yeah, that's what I have to say about that. So, pray over what you say yes to and what you commit to. So, the third thing, that was some real talk right there. That got real strong. So, I feel like I need to take a break for a minute, laugh, let you guys know I'm a really nice person.
Barry says, ask your kids, ask your wife.
He's hilarious right now. You guys can still be telling me what makes you feel overwhelmed. We'll try to check this. Can you scroll through the comments now?
Well, yeah, I turned.
No, you can't.
Well, yeah, because I turned the volume off because the volume kept coming on and interrupted. Yeah, so the volume's off.
Cool.
So Bridget says, "Thank you. I needed to hear this."
Cool. Very good. Thank you for being my comment person. So the third point that we're going to talk about is balance, and what I can kind of subtitle this: "Find your reset button." And this is something that I've blogged about too. I wrote a blog, it was actually just about a year ago, and it's called Find Your Reset Button. And it was when I found myself at a point where it was while I was launching my book, and everything was just too much, and it was overwhelming, and it was crazy town. And also, what I learned with going through everything with my gallbladder, even a year before that, is that I have to consistently work in exercise into my routine and into my schedule, even if it's just 5 minutes a day, even if it's 10 minutes a day. You guys, I'm not a fitnesser. Like, I don't fitness. Like, it's not, like Jenny enjoys working out. Like, that's her thing. Like, she has all the funny tank tops with, like, all the fitnessy sayings on them. Like, that's her jam. Like, that's not me, okay? Understand, like, I go for runs and walks and I ride my bike and I do things like that because I don't want my body to break down again, okay? So understand it's a necessity for me. And what I learned is it's a stress relief. And I know that's not a secret. I mean, that's been well-known knowledge for years, but it makes such a difference. I mean, and what I talk about this in the blog. So on the days that I would feel most overwhelmed, like I had way too much stuff on my plate, I absolutely, for sure, did not have time to take a break and go ride on the bike trail with my husband. Those in particular were the days that I needed to make myself stop and go get in the truck with my husband and go ride on the bike trail. And I mean, just that 45 minutes riding down into the little town and riding back, and just that time that we were unplugged and we were away from everything and we were able to connect. Just he and I, sometimes we talked, sometimes we didn't even talk. We just rode side by side and it was quiet and it was awesome. But I mean, just that 45 minutes, I was ready to tackle the rest of my list for the day. I was recharged, I was reset. Yeah. Just with that little bit, and it doesn't have to be that. It can literally be, okay, I would have to make myself stop, get up, put on my tennis shoes, and go run around the neighborhood, which is about a mile. And just, I mean, that takes what, 12 minutes, 15 minutes? I mean, but then I'm reset and I'm ready to go. So you have to figure out, and this is what I say in the blog again, you have to figure out what your reset button is and push it often, especially on the days that you feel like you don't have time.
Right.
So what are some things, put in the comments, what are some things that help you reset? I asked Facebook ahead of time and I got answers like watching TV, reading, exercising. Somebody even said volunteering, which is great. That's something that Joyce Meyer actually talks about in her book, Overload, which I'm about halfway through with right now. It's absolutely amazing. Like if feeling stressed, overwhelmed, burnout is something that you struggle with, this is an absolute must read for you guys. It was so funny as I was preparing for this message. I was like, why do I even bother talking about things? Like, if people would just go buy Joyce Meyer books for each of the topics that they have to deal with, then they would get all the information that they need. So literally everything that you need to deal with stress and burnout and overwhelm is in Joyce Meyer's book, Overload.
So, Susie's Inc.
Yes.
What makes me feel overwhelmed?
Kids and husband needing me constantly and then trying to still find time. Amen, girl. Amen to that. So we'll talk about that a little bit more at the end. But yeah, so what makes you feel refreshed? You can comment about that. And
sitting on my porch swing.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, for sure. Barry and I, we have 4 acres of woods behind our house, and just going for a walk through the woods and sitting out there for a little bit. That's
doing a hobby I enjoy.
That's refreshing.
Like sewing, getting away for the weekend. I just did that. Oh. Yeah, that was nice.
Totally refreshed.
Yeah. Zip lining. Yeah, just getting away, turning everything off. It was great.
Getting out of your normal routine. Obviously, you can't.
Yeah, getting out of your normal routine is a big deal because then you can't do your normal routine if you're not around it.
Right. Yeah. And obviously, like, that's not something that you can do all the time. So, like, when you're feeling super overwhelmed, maybe it is just going for a walk, and that can be something quick, but try to work in those regular unplugging, getting away, being able to get out of your environment, out of your routine. That's also not a secret that people know. Yeah, right. I saw that. I saw that. So here's my tip on this. Pray for God to show you how to rest. And this is for me. This is maybe I'm the only person that needs to do this. And peace, to give you peace in it when you do. Because of my personality type, because I'm so driven, because I'm so task-oriented, because I'm so achievement-oriented, I literally feel guilty stopping and resting. I feel guilty taking a break when there's still stuff to be done. And so literally I had to work into my daily affirmations card, I relax well, without thinking of things left to be undone. Like, I literally have to say that out loud to myself. Are you kidding? But that's real life right there. That's hashtag real talk. That's something that I have to focus on, that I have to pray for God to give me that peace and show me how to rest and win too. Yeah. So Overload by Joyce Meyer, and that's that point. Do you have anything to add to that?
I don't think so.
Okay. Yeah. So the final point that I have to make is to let go and let God, and that's super cheesy and churchy, and I know, but bear with me. Don't hang up on me right now. Okay, so here's what I've learned, and again, I relapse, you guys. Like I relapse every 6 months, okay, and I forget.
Relapsed last week.
Right. I forget all of this stuff. You were with me.
Pretty funny.
You were with me during my last relapse in March. At this, I'm going to talk about this because she was there. Billy, you were there. Okay, sorry, that was a Tommy Boy quote. Relapsing. So ultimately, every time that I feel myself getting stressed out and feeling overwhelmed, it's because I've taken on things that are not mine to take on, and I'm trying to handle them all by myself. And it comes up in different ways, like I'll get different reminders or whatever, but often what comes to mind is this quote that I heard for the first time years and years and years ago, and it's, how much of the things that weigh you down are not yours to carry? So let that marinate for a second. How much of the things that weigh you down are not yours to carry? Meaning, you are trying, for me, I'm trying to control things and do things on my own that God just wants me to that He wants to handle. But I need that, but I need to know exactly how this is going to work out, and I need to make sure that it's just so. Yeah. Right? And so house shopping, right? Yeah.
It's been a year.
Right.
This is what I just had my relapse about. Okay. I was yelling in my car.
Yep. I mean, it's okay. Were there F-bombs? Because it's okay.
I yelled at God and then I yelled at Satan.
Both. Yell at them both. Here's the thing, and I hear Joyce Meyer say this all the time. God already knows you're mad, so it doesn't do you any good to just keep that on the inside. So if you're mad about something, just let him know. It's okay. He gets it. So, yeah.
Yeah. I yelled, I'm like, where's my house? I've been waiting for it. Where have you been? I was so angry. And then I turned around like, Satan, you just came to the party and I didn't even know it. And then I got really pissed off and started yelling at him.
Right.
So I was mad at everybody at that point.
Right. And so again,
it was good. It was relieving.
That's such a great point, because the enemy comes in and it's like he gets behind you and he push, and you need to make this happen, and you need to control this, and you need to and you need to make sure, and it's not true. None of it's true. And so every single time that I am stressed and I'm overwhelmed, I have that, oh crap, I'm doing it again. Like I've done, like when did I pick this back up again? I let this go. Why am I doing this again? And so that is ultimately. I mean, I gave you a lot. We talked about a lot of practical stuff. We talked about list making and prioritizing things and whatever. But ultimately, letting go, letting God handle things that you weren't even designed to handle.
It's a great relief.
Yes,
it is. It's very relieving.
Right. And so when I had this last relapse earlier this year in March, it was so crazy because it's like it came out of nowhere, because it's not like I took on a bunch of new responsibilities or my life changed or anything. It was just normal, but I just got so overwhelmed by it, and I felt like, I feel like I'm always busy and I never get a break, and I have the same workload, but I feel like I'm like I used to have time to take breaks and to rest and to recharge, and I don't anymore. What happened? And so I just felt overwhelmed. And we're starting a series at our church called Margin. And when I watched the trailer for the series, I was like, oh, well, this is specifically ordained for me. They literally wrote it for me and my life. And I wasn't wrong. So when I went to week 1, literally I sat in the auditorium like a blubbering mess for a full 20 minutes. It was 20 minutes afterwards, just bawling my eyes out. Just pouring everything out to Jenny and everything that I was dealing with, it was what I was dealing with, but the message was so impactful, and the speaker at the very end, he did this visualization, and it just showed me in a very real and tangible way how I had picked things back up again that weren't mine to carry. And so I'd like to repeat that visualization experience with you guys today, if that's okay. If you'll join me for this. Do you have anything you want to add before we do this? Because after this we'll do questions after this, but...
Yeah. I don't think so.
Okay.
I think good.
Okay, guys, are you ready? We're going to zoom in. We're going to get up close and personal.
And I know that we're supposed to say hi to everyone. Recently. Hi, Katie. Hi, Steve.
Hi, Steve.
Stephanie. John.
Okay.
Brad.
John, Brad.
Al.
Susie.
Thanks for joining.
Yeah, so everybody's here. So everybody that's here, looks like we're actually at peak capacity right now.
Oh, Zoe. Joined for a good part of the letting stuff go.
Awesome.
Unpack your bag.
Yes. So, close your eyes. I'm being serious. Stop looking at me. Close your eyes. Imagine you're on a path. You're outside, walking uphill. There are big rocks and roots you have to climb over. The incline is steep. On your back, you're carrying a heavy hiking pack, and it's loaded down. Inside this pack are all the weights and worries and burdens of your life. Each one is like a stone. On that stone is one word. You might have a stone that says family. You might have a stone that says kids. You might be in college and have a stone that says major because you don't even know which one to pick. You might have one that says bills. The pack is heavy and it's digging into your shoulders. It's straining your lower back and your legs are on fire. But you can't stop moving. As you're climbing, you become aware of someone walking next to you. Their presence is peaceful and calming. Excuse me. It's like someone who has known you and loved you your whole life. Without even looking over, you understand this person is Jesus. You're not alone. He's walking with you. He gently reaches over and he puts his hand on your shoulder and he says, "Hey, why don't we step off the path for a minute? Why don't you come over here with me and sit down?" He walks you to a little clearing and helps you take off the pack. You set it between you as you sit down on a rock, and he looks at you and asks a question. "What's in there? Would you show me what's in there?" I want you to imagine you reach your hand in your pack and pull out the rock that's on top. What does that rock say? Go ahead and tell him what it is. You fumble through some words, you get a description out, and he almost interrupts you. "Hey, you know what? Why don't you give that one to me? Can I have that one?" Tell him yes. Just say, "Jesus, you can have it. You can have this burden. You can carry it for me." He looks at you again and he says, "What else is in there? Like, what's the one at the bottom? The big rock at the bottom, the one you don't even want to talk about. Maybe it says fear on it. Maybe it says purpose because you don't even know what you're made for. Maybe it says bitterness. Whatever it is, hold that rock out and tell him what it is." Again, he says, "Hey, why don't you give that one to me too? You know what? Why don't you give me the whole pack? Can I carry the whole thing for you?" If you want, you can tell Jesus right now, you can carry the whole thing. The weight of my life is on you. Please carry it for me. And he does. With a smile on his face, he looks at you, he grabs the straps of the pack and he puts it on one shoulder and then on the other, and he stands up with ease. See, the weight of your life doesn't weigh him down like it does you. He stands up and he reaches his hand down to you and he says, "Hey, come here, follow me." You notice immediately your back feels better, your shoulders don't ache anymore, and there's a new power in your legs. You start walking the path behind him. It's the same path you were just on a minute before, but it's totally different now. You start to notice things you miss, like the blue sky and all the trees, the sounds of the birds and life everywhere. He points up ahead over the horizon and says, "You see that? There's a wide green valley that stretches as far as you can see. That's the valley of life. That's where we're headed. Come with me." Now, I don't know, I can't see you guys right now, but I imagine again that he ends that and I'm sitting in my seat I'm bawling, just bawling, because he was describing me and my life. That was everything that I was feeling and everything that I was going through. I could physically feel that pack that he was describing. And I left there and nothing in my life changed. I had the same workload, the same amount of things going on, the same pressure, the same maybe uncomfortable relationships and circumstances with different people in my life at that time. But I was physically lighter. And the things that overwhelmed me when I walked into that room and felt like it was just too much and I couldn't take it anymore, suddenly weren't there. And so that is, that's the last key point. I mean, there are so many practical things that you can do, like we said, but ultimately, if you're not asking God to come in and help you with all the stuff in your life, if you're not letting Him take some of those pressures and take some of that burden off of you, it doesn't matter how many lists and 9-point programs you follow. I mean, it's not going to get any better. And so that's the key. So, what else?
I know that I've always felt in this household, or around Bible studies that I've got into. I went to Catholic school. I didn't believe in God. So then I got to know God in a different way. Mm-hmm. But I feel like I'm an underdog in knowing about God. Mm-hmm. But I know one thing that helped was when we learned to talk to God like He was our dad. Like He wasn't this big deal to talk to.
Right.
You just want to have a conversation.
Yeah.
So it helped me. I put a reminder in my calendar and my phone every morning. It pops up, and it's my de-stress prayer.
Okay.
So it's pretty easy. I every morning. Well, there was two. The first one says, "I decree that the blessing of God is on my life. It empowers me to prosper. The favor of God is on my life, and it produces the opportunities to make it happen."
Awesome.
There's more to that. But it's just these simple prayers. Heavenly Father, I receive your joy and I receive your word. I release all stressors, cast all cares on you because you care for me.
Yeah.
I will meditate in this word until I know that no matter what the trouble, you'll deliver me from all of it. Yeah. Thank you for it now, Lord. In Jesus' name I pray.
Yeah.
So that was one that I would pray when I felt so stressed out in the morning, like, all right, you got this. Like, all right, take a deep breath, let it out.
Right. Because when it's all up to you and when it's all on your own shoulders, it is overwhelming. But when you get to have that mental click that, oh, this isn't even up to me. This isn't even on me. Like, this is, you promised to take care of this. Then that weight comes off. And so you reminded me, I wanted to read a few scriptures, because this whole principle of letting God handle your drama is not just like a nice thing to think about. Like, we're commanded in scripture to do this, and you're allowed to do this. So if I could find them. And set your mind and keep them set on what is above, the higher things, not on the things that are earth. Whatever is noble, whatever is true, whatever is worthy of reverence and honorable and seemly, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely and lovable, etc., etc. Think on and weigh on, take account of these things, fix your mind on them. That's not the scripture that I'm looking for. The scripture that I'm looking for, it must be in another list, is cast your cares on Lord. Cast your anxieties on Him. And that's something, it's in Psalms, but I don't know which one. That He tells us that we can do that. And so you have permission to do that too. And so pray about, hey God, show me what I'm trying to control. Show me what I'm taking on and that you want me to let go. Think back anytime that you need to. Think back to that visual. Imagine you're walking on that path and having that conversation with Jesus again and talking through what's in your pack. So with that, I'm wrapped up. Do we have any questions?
No, I don't see any questions. No.
Some of the things that made people feel overwhelmed, I think we covered most of those.
Mm-hmm.
But thanks for sharing with us, you guys. And thanks for joining us for this conversation. And next month, what are we covering next month? I should have this list in front of me. Next month, I believe that we're covering... No, actually, I know what we're covering next month. So next month is going to be awesome. And it's going to be it's probably going to be a little heavier. Because the topic for next month is what do you do when God seems silent, or when He seems distant? And so that's what we're going to be talking about next month. It will be the date will be set, and we'll post it and announce it. I'll also find some of those scriptures for you guys. Thank you, Connie, for posting one. I appreciate that. I'll find some of the scriptures that I thought were the list that I was reading from, and get those to you and post them on the event page like I did last time. And I'll also post the list of books. We finally had Eat That Frog. So I'll post the list of those, the books and resources that help with this topic. And you guys feel free to reach out. I mean, I am there online. I want to connect with you. So feel free to reach out, submit any questions or anything specific if you didn't post about it tonight. Anything specific that you're dealing with stress or overwhelm that you want to talk about. If I have any other resources that can help you with that, I'll certainly point you in that direction. I'm not the know-all. Like I said, like I super suck at this still. But I know what has helped me. And so I'm happy to point you guys in the direction of those things. And then also to start commenting and asking questions and submitting your ideas and discussion points that you want to talk about in the what happens or what do you do when God feels silent or when He feels distant. Because I have a big story to talk about that one, and for sure you do. I mean, we talked about that a little bit with the house thing.
Right.
So
gotta keep revisiting.
So yeah, so it'll be good. It's going to be a good conversation. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you guys next month.
Goodbye.
Bye.